I don't care, I'm determined to marry him. If you can't accept him, I'll cut off our sisterhood right now. The sharp pain in my forehead stunned me. Wasn't I supposed to be dead? How could I still feel pain, realizing something was wrong? I opened my eyes and practically bolted upright, staring at my unblemished hands. I never imagined I'd actually been reborn, previous life sister Trista, in order to marry a petty thug, a trashy man who would commit domestic violence, framed me for drug use. Not only ruining my reputation but also trapping me in a raging fire. At that time, to save her, both my hands were burned to a bloody pulp, leaving scars after I entered prison, but now these hands are perfectly smooth, with a luxurious bracelet on the wrist showcasing the nobility of someone in power. The scene before me is all too familiar. It's when my sister insisted on marrying that thug, and I withheld her household registration booklet. She went crazy arguing with me and smashed everything in the room. In the end, she couldn't get the household register and even sent me to prison. In my previous life, during this madness, I sat slumped on the sofa, resting with my head tilted back, until she hit my forehead with a teacup. That teacup was a piece of craftsmanship, which quickly cut a bloody gash on my forehead. Warm blood trickled down my cheek. In my past life, I was utterly enraged and stood up to slap her. It was the only time I ever hit her. For that one slap, I paid with my life and all my family's wealth. In this new life, I just sat on the sofa, staring at her coldly. Are you determined to marry him? My sister stood amidst the chaos, clenching her fists like a warrior resisting all darkness for true love. Little did she know, in others' eyes, she was nothing but a fool. Yes, if you don't let me marry him in this lifetime, I'll die, and I won't acknowledge you as family anymore. Think carefully. Reborn into this life, I was still infuriated by her, unwilling to wage war for her again. I could only stand there, taking several deep breaths. Today we'll settle this once and for all. It's either me or that wretched boy. If you choose me, leave him. If you choose him, then sever our sisterhood. I had never spoken such harsh words to her before. She was clearly taken aback, but then she seemed to think I might just be bluffing, so she stubbornly agreed. I immediately called my secretary to deliver the parent-child severance agreement. Only when she saw the document did she realize I wasn't joking. Sis, you're truly ruthless. To obstruct my pursuit of true love, you'd even resort to such tactics. But let me tell you, it won't work. I won't become like Dad. I sneered inwardly, a phoenix man who would cheat, and my sister actually believed he was searching for true love, if the mistress he found was true love. How could she have run away without hesitation the moment he lost his money? Under my mocking smile, my sister decisively signed the agreement, and I, too, signed my name without hesitation, looking at the sister I had cherished for half my life. It would be a lie to say it didn't hurt, but if she hadn't done such terrible things in her past life, I might have stubbornly clung to her forever. Trista after she left. I had the house cleaned up and listed it with the real estate agency as quickly as possible. This villa is famously known for its sea views. Back then, it was only because Trista said she liked it that I went to great lengths to purchase it. In my childhood, my father, who was a live-in son-in-law, betrayed my mother. He seized most of the family assets and turned against her. After that, in order to defeat my father in business, my mother relentlessly trained my sister and me. Both my sister and I loved dancing. At that time, my sister tearfully begged me, saying she didn't want to give up the opportunity to dance, so I took the initiative and stepped forward, taking over the family business, allowing my sister to pursue dance. I placed all my hopes and love on her, so when this white swan was tarnished, I tried everything to pull her back, never expecting to be dragged into the abyss by her. When selling this house, I set a fair price. And combined with its excellent location, it was quickly sold. However, just a few days later, the new landlord called me, saying my daughter had thrown a tantrum at their place and even sent me the surveillance video as proof. In the video, Trista was no longer that elegant white swan. The tattoos on her body, exaggerated makeup, and flashy clothes all told me she had completely changed. In the video, she tried to open the door with a key, but it wouldn't budge. Enraged, she started kicking the door violently. Open the door, sis. Why did you change the lock? Don't forget, I own half of the family's property too. You have no right to change the lock. It's just a pity that the new homeowners weren't home today. They only bought the house for vacation use. Trista couldn't open the door no matter how hard she tried. She called me, but I had already blocked her number, realizing no one was in the house. Trista actually picked up a nearby flower pot and smashed the door open. The security system in this villa community is very robust. As soon as the door was smashed, the security guards arrived, restrained her, and called the homeowners. When I sold the house, I had already warned the homeowners that my sister might come looking for trouble, and they should just contact me if that happened. The homeowner happily agreed, and for this, I even threw in a parking space. After receiving the video and the other party's phone call, I immediately called the security guard over there. I didn't say much, just told them to call the police and made it clear to them that I don't have a sister. Trista not only failed to get into the house but also ended up in the police station. In the end, it was that little blonde guy Cliff who pulled her out. A few days later, Trista came to the company again. I had previously instructed the people in the company not to let Trista in anymore. The people below always thought I was just having a disagreement with Trista, so they kept trying to curry favor with her. That's why, after coming to work that day, I saw Trista in my office. Sis, the other day when I went home, they said you sold that house. What's going on? That house is our shared property. How could you sell it, and where's the money from the sale? Actually, I had a feeling she would come around this time. In my previous life, I forbade her from associating with Cliff, and she threw a huge tantrum at home. She even threatened to divide the family assets with me, claiming that the current company and property were left by our mother, so she was entitled to half. What she didn't know was that our mother's inheritance had already been legally processed by lawyers. Since childhood, I underwent the strictest training from my mother, which is why I took over the family's nearly bankrupt company. Trista learned to dance and was the little princess doted on by me and Mom, so the only inheritance Mom left her was money. After we each received our inheritances, Trista's money was saved by her. No matter how difficult the company was in all these years, I never asked her for a penny. If it had been kept safely in the bank, the interest alone would have been enough for her to live on. Did you spend the 20 million Mom left you? If I remember correctly, I never allowed you to touch that money. Where did it go? I actually know where the money went. In my past life, I only found out after death that Trista had long since reunited with that cheating father. Back then, after that man had an affair, he used underhanded methods to transfer part of the family's assets. Heartbroken, my mother made a clean break in the heat of the moment, but while it felt good at the time, it later caused huge problems for the company, especially since my dad, relying on the company he split off, kept opposing my mom, ultimately leaving both companies in ruins. The company my mom left behind gradually revived after I took over, while theirs went completely bankrupt. The mistress who was with my dad back then immediately took his money and fled abroad. As for my dad coming back later to reconcile, I kicked him out. Later, he went elsewhere to make a living but didn't fare well anywhere, which is why he came back secretly and got in touch with Trista. I had no idea about any of this. Trista stammered twice when I asked about the money, then turned the question back on me. Why are you asking about this? Don't tell me you're eyeing my money. That's my inheritance. I don't interfere with the company, and you stay out of my finances. I let out a cold laugh, pulled out a copy of Mom's inheritance distribution, and threw it in front of her. Those 20 million are your inheritance, and this company is the inheritance I rightfully deserve. I still have the video of the inheritance selection back then. Would you like to see it? Not hearing me say this, she lowered her head in some panic, even knocking away that copy with a swipe, because he didn't dare look at those things. Back then, she had threatened to die rather than learn to take over the company, and it was her who, when the inheritance was being divided, was the first to receive 20 million in cash. From beginning to end, not a single cent of her inheritance was touched. Instead, she kept feeding off the dividends from my company. If I were to settle accounts with her properly, she might actually owe me money. On what grounds? Your current company is worth more than 20 million now. By rights, half of it should be mine. Isn't it just about the money? Fine, I'll give you half. I let out a cold laugh, my tone laced with sarcasm. The company is indeed worth more than 20 million, but what does that have to do with you? The inheritance notarization clearly states in black and white, you don't interfere with the company's affairs, and you don't share in its profits. All these years I've supported you out of sisterly affection, but now that we've severed ties, how dare you still come to me? I knew she must be regretting signing that severance agreement at this moment, as she suddenly threw a tantrum in my office, smashing everything on the desk. You're nothing but a vicious woman. No wonder Dad said you and Mom are cut from the same cloth. Both of you are obsessive, controlling, crazy lunatics. You'd already planned to settle accounts with me over the property. That's why you forced me to sign that agreement that day. You'd even scheme against your own sister. A woman like you deserves to be unloved. Whether someone loves me or not, loving myself is enough. So for now I'm just watching coldly and called the police, after all. The thing she smashed was my newly bought laptop, and she must compensate for it at full price. In less than a week's time, Trista was arrested by the police twice. I know she will surely become even more reckless next, so to ensure my own safety, I hired a private detective to keep an eye on her movements at all times, and I was well aware of her greedy nature, so I specifically planted a listening device on a luxury watch when she came to the company to confront me. I conveniently dropped it on the ground. It didn't take long before I got what I wanted. She was in contact with my competitor, just like the trajectory of my past life. In that life I didn't agree to them being together. But at the time I didn't drive away Trista, which inadvertently gave her an opportunity. The most fatal blow for a fashion clothing company is the design drafts, especially recently when the company is developing a seasonal fashion project. Trista used the excuse of wanting to help me at the company, and at the time, I thought that if she had a job, she might forget about that man, but in the end, she took advantage of being my sister to move freely within the company and ultimately stole the design drafts. She sold my company's design drafts to a rival company, which then released the seasonal fashion line ahead of us. We had invested a massive amount of capital upfront, and now with this situation arising, making last-minute design changes was impossible, but giving up would mean losing everything we'd invested. During that period, I was so busy I could barely keep my head above water, and had no time to pay attention to Trista. She took advantage of this window to steal some of my jewelry and went abroad on vacation with Cliff. He had no idea how much damage that incident caused to my company. I almost got ousted by the other shareholders. If it weren't for seeking help from old friends and securing two crucial projects, the career my mother painstakingly built might have truly changed hands. This time, I won't just take over this project, I'll also teach her another lesson. So when Trista returned bruised and battered, I didn't push her to leave immediately. Sis, I was wrong, let me come back. He hit me, look at me. In this life, I didn't keep her by my side, so she came up with this trick to return. I glanced at the wounds on her face. The traces of makeup were far too obvious, but I didn't expose her. Instead, I just smiled faintly and asked, do you truly know you were wrong? This might be the last time I ask her. In our past life, I asked this countless times, but now, all I feel is disgust. I won't give her another chance. Trista, hearing my question, she thought it was an opportunity and hurried to my side, tightly grasping my hand. Sis, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. You've always been the best to me. No matter what I do, you always forgive me. Looking at her like this, I really have nothing more to say. All right, you can come back. Hearing that I allowed her to return, Trista raised her face with a joyful smile. I also smiled. Little sister, are you ready for the death ending I've prepared for you? Just moments ago, she was still grimacing and exaggerating her pain to me, complaining that even speaking a single word would tug painfully at the corner of her mouth. Sis, since you've agreed to let me come back, can I work at your company? It's been so long since I last danced, and I probably can't return to the dance troupe now. As I looked at her now, I could no longer see any trace of the young girl who had once starved herself just for the sake of dancing. All right. I agreed to her request once again, which also gave her a great opportunity. It wasn't long before I noticed this girl starting to wander around the company's design department. In this lifetime, I had surveillance cameras installed both inside and outside the design department well in advance. I have to admit, this girl is quite clever. She knew to destroy the original cameras to avoid leaving evidence. Unfortunately for her, the hidden cameras I installed aren't so easily spotted. Sitting in my office, watching the girl sneaking around on my computer screen, photographing the designs with her phone and destroying several prototype drafts, the last shred of hope in my heart was shattered. After finishing all this, the girl nonchalantly left the design department. In the following days, the company suddenly became chaotic. Trista noticed we were busy working overtime every day and curiously came to inquire, Sis, why have you been so busy lately? There's an issue with the company's design drafts. We're working hard to fix it. If you're free, help out more around the company instead of running around everywhere. Through the Trojan virus on her phone, I had long since obtained information about her collusion with a certain company. However, I chose not to report it to the police. It was just a commercial crime. At most, she would pay fines and serve a sentence, and in a few years, she could be out again. But in our past life, she and that man were determined not to let me live. Of course, I couldn't let them off so easily either. A few days later, Trista said she didn't want to work at the company anymore and proposed going on a trip. I didn't stop her. Before leaving, she still took my jewelry and even drove off in my car. I timed it perfectly and reported her to the police just before she boarded the plane. The authorities arrested her and Cliff at the airport. Though the charge was merely petty theft, after she was sent to prison, she screamed hysterically at the officers inside. "Let me go, I didn't do anything wrong. I only took things from my own home. Release me now, or when my sister gets here, you'll regret it." Before her words had even finished, I appeared before her with a lawyer in tow. The moment he saw me, Trista wore an awkward expression, dodged a couple of times, then hurriedly started shouting at me, "Sis, save me quick, these cops are spouting nonsense, saying I stole something. How could I possibly steal anything? Get me out of here." I stared at him coldly, not saying a word. Until someone beside me gave him a reminder, "Miss Trista, please choose your words carefully. You and Ms. Erin have already severed your mother-daughter relationship. You should now address her as Miss Erin. As for those items you took, they are Ms. Erin's personal collection. Taking them without permission constitutes theft." At this point, she understood everything. Her eyes widened in disbelief, filled with incredulity. "Sister, have you lost your mind? Do you really want to cut ties with me? Don't forget, I'm your only family left in this world. If it weren't because she was my only family, how could I have ended up disgraced and ultimately died by her hand? The amount you stole is substantial, but I can let it go. From now on, don't call me sister anymore." Letting her off wasn't out of softness, it was to watch the two of them turn on each other like dogs. Trista, that brain of hers couldn't possibly come up with such a complex plan, so Cliff must be the mastermind behind it. Of course, I'll have someone tell Trista that the man she loves most has pinned all the blame on her. If she can come to her senses and live her own life well from now on, I don't want to drive her to the wall. All we need is to find an opportunity to eliminate that man. Whether she lives or dies depends on Trista's own choice. This time, the company's designs weren't stolen. Trista took the work of a famous foreign designer. This designer holds significant influence in the industry, and his works have been deeply analyzed by countless people. However, the one taken by Trista was modified by our designers, yet the core concept remained unchanged. If the rival company had been even slightly more careful, they wouldn't have fallen for it. But I truly overestimated these people. They stole the design from me and pushed it into production without even bothering to analyze or modify it properly. Perhaps they were trying to seize the moment. In any case, their four-season fashion line was the first to launch and also the first to become a laughingstock. The reputation of plagiarism, once branded on them, would leave this company either dead or severely wounded. I've had my eye on them for a long time. If I can completely drag them down, I'll be able to take advantage of their weakness. I remember in my previous life, just before I died, I saw in a prison newspaper that this company was exposed for plagiarism issues and immediately abandoned their designer. If they repeat the same mistake this time, the designer will surely bring me tremendous benefits. Facts prove that while it's easy to change rivers and mountains, human nature is hard to alter. After being exposed for design plagiarism, they immediately abandoned their own design director. They didn't report it to the police, after all. Their company couldn't withstand scrutiny. They simply sent the design director abroad. It seems the benefits offered were substantial, so I packed my bags overnight and left the country, immediately reaching out to this design director. All under heaven hustle for profit. As long as the benefits are generous enough, I'm not afraid he won't give me the inside scoop. I've gained a lot from this design director, but I need to consolidate these things. Only with a single decisive strike can I make a stunning comeback. My seasonal fashion exhibition hasn't even started yet, but there are already people online deliberately spreading rumors that our clothing designs are plagiarized. To amplify the buzz, I even hired trolls myself to criticize my own company. At this very moment, Trista and Cliff were released from prison, and as expected, the two of them ended up in conflict. The private investigator had been tailing them for a long time before finally summarizing one sentence for me. "Ms. Erin, your sister isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. you'd better be careful, she's plotting to harm you. The private investigator recorded their secret discussions. At first, the two were arguing, but soon, my love-struck sister was Cliff's to command, Trista, your sister is quite sharp. It won't be so easy to deal with her next time. Do you think I don't know? But what can I do about it? Isn't your sister preparing a 4-season fashion exhibition? Why don't we go and participate too? The two of them excitedly schemed for a while. But unfortunately, when it was time to leave, no one paid the bill, and they ended up in another big argument, trying to mess with my 4-season fashion exhibition. Seems like I didn't keep them locked up long enough, in their scheme. My 4-season fashion exhibition also began, and I clearly saw that many people in the audience were eager to pounce, likely thinking they could make a big fuss as soon as the models walked out wearing these outfits, when I, as the model, actually wore the 4-season collection designed by our company. Everyone froze in place, some even gaped in astonishment, as they could clearly see that every element of the 4-season collection aligned perfectly with our company's signature style. There was absolutely no basis for plagiarism claims. Even at the conclusion of this exhibition, the large screen publicly displayed each stage of our company's team during the design process. Every stage was clearly timestamped, which completely confirms that none of our company's designs involved any plagiarism. If it weren't for Trista adding that final segment, this showcase would have been truly spectacular, because right after the showcase ended, a video suddenly appeared on the large screen. The video shows me drinking with several business tycoons. In the footage, those men kept getting handsy, yet I still held my glass with a forced smile. This happened in my past life too. Back then they demanded my assets, and when I refused, they came up with this scheme. After all, in Trista's eyes, everything I owned belonged to her. If such a scandal were exposed, the company's interests would suffer, so she resorted to this trump card at the last moment, but in this life, she used it early. Perhaps intending to teach me a lesson, but she forgot that back then, the company was on the verge of collapse. My mother had just passed away, and those people were eager to pounce and tear the company apart completely. That was when the company was at its most difficult time, yet Trista chose that very moment to get into a physical fight over a dance costume. Later, I was forced to sell the house my mother left me to cover up the whole mess with money. The house was originally supposed to be mortgaged to help the company salvage a project, but the house was sold, and the money never reached me. I had no choice but to seek investments everywhere, enduring a lot of hardship in the process. Yet, Trista knew nothing about this. In my past life, I always wondered where she got all these things from. Fortunately, I have another chance in this life, so I might as well investigate when the time comes. This matter quickly became a hot search topic. And female entrepreneurs naturally attract a lot of gossip. Many people had previously claimed that I slept my way to the top, and when going out for business negotiations, it was inevitable to face belittlement. This explosive news was nothing short of pushing me into the eye of the storm. Everyone in the company was on edge, but I remained unshaken. Boss, the overwhelming public opinion online is all against us right now, yet you keep delaying our PR response. Why is that? My assistant beside me was practically burning with anxiety. Just one night, and the poor girl already had blisters forming at the corners of her mouth. No need to rush, even negative publicity is still publicity. Haven't you noticed how much hotter our seasonal clothing line has become? Far beyond what we expected. This, of course, was undeniable. Even people who usually had no interest in fashion were sharing the event videos. The popularity of the clothing has reached an unprecedented height, with even a short video being shared hundreds of millions of times. But boss, this popularity isn't good for us. Many women are boycotting our clothing, and major shareholders have been calling, demanding an explanation. The reporters are all gathered at the door. This is human nature. In previous years, no matter how much my company donated or how much social welfare we did, we never saw these reporters gathered at our door. But as soon as a scandal breaks out, they swarm like flies to blood. Because these journalists also understand human nature well, whether it's resentment toward the wealthy or sheer jealousy, what people really want is just an outlet to vent freely, and I wasn't idle either. Such a golden opportunity for publicity naturally had to be seized. This is the culmination of my efforts across 2 lifetimes, so of course, I had to maximize its impact. While I was organizing the evidence, Trista called me at that moment, sounding rather smug. Hey sis. You're practically an internet celebrity now. Why not take on a couple of endorsements? Otherwise, what will you eat and drink when the company goes under? I sneered, not wanting to waste any time with her. Where did you get all this stuff from? What? How is this any of my business? You're the one who did all those dirty things, and now that they've been exposed online, you're trying to pin it on me. If you've got nothing else to say, I'm hanging up. She's calling me at this time. Surely there's something she needs from me, so there's no point wasting time. Don't panic yet. I have a way to save the company. Let's meet up. I'm curious to know, with that brain of hers, what kind of solution she could possibly come up with for me. So I agreed to meet her. Before heading out, I sent out all the evidence I had gathered. The meeting place was a coffee shop, and when I arrived, the two of them were cuddling in their seats. What's more, they had ordered countless desserts and were feeding each other bite by bite. To be honest, their behavior made me feel extremely uncomfortable about the place, though the coffee shop itself wasn't to blame. I'm here, say what you have to say. Trista smiled as she placed a spoonful of cake into Cliff's mouth, watching him eat it with satisfaction before planting a kiss on his lips, then finally turned her head away. Sister is really in a hurry now, but no wonder. With your reputation in such a state, if you don't act quickly, the company will go bankrupt, right? I didn't speak, just calmly glanced at my watch. You have 5 minutes left. My mercilessness made Trista flash a trace of anger in her eyes. Without wasting any more time with me, she directly stated her demand this time. Then I'll cut to the chase. As long as you're willing to hand over the company and transfer it under my name, it'll become mine and have nothing to do with you, naturally. No trouble will arise then. As she spoke, she even naively blinked at me, as if seeking my approval. Sis, isn't this a great solution? I'm doing this for your own good. I let out a cold laugh. Who exactly this was for her own good? She knew perfectly well in her heart, there was no need for her to put on this act. Trista, I used to think you were just stupid, but now I realize you're completely brainless, with your level of intelligence trying to scheme against me. No one would believe you're not asking for death. My words angered Trista and also infuriated Cliff beside her. Before Trista could speak, Cliff was the first to slam the table. Aaron, stop your nonsense. If you want your company to stay intact, I advise you to quickly transfer it to your sister. You must have seen what's happening online. Surely you don't want the company to go completely bankrupt. Perhaps because past events were being brought up again. As I looked at Cliff now, I suddenly found him somewhat familiar. I racked my brain hard and suddenly remembered. Just yesterday I had watched the old video again. Cliff, if he dyed that blonde hair black, I really had seen this guy before. I know who was behind that video. I looked at Cliff with a half smile, and he clearly understood what I meant, curling his lips into a disgusting grin. So what if you know? It's been so many years, you gonna sue me or something? Cliff is a little punk who often buys porn online and always finds ways to sneak into high-end hotels, and they secretly planted cameras. No wonder the angle of that video they released was so strange. It's as if they were filming us directly. And right under my nose, so that's how it was. Back when I was negotiating business with those people, their behavior became increasingly outrageous. In the end, I couldn't take it anymore and tried to leave, but they blocked my way. In a critical moment, I smashed a bottle over one of their heads, and as I was escaping, I ran right into Cliff. I had indeed seen him before. Indeed, what happened back then can't be used to accuse you now. If you think you can frame me with just half of a video, you're seriously underestimating me. Cliff let out a dismissive scoff, looking at me with contempt in his eyes. A woman like you should focus on getting married instead of working so hard. Look at you, going out to negotiate deals with no one to back you up. I don't understand why you object to me being with your sister. With me around, life would be easier for both of you. How shameless. But the more arrogant he is, the better for me. So you have all the videos. You know I didn't just let them bully me back then. I escaped at the critical moment and even injured them with a wine bottle, and I didn't get to where I am today by selling my body. Yet you chose to wrongfully accuse me and even bribed my sister. Cliff was short-sighted and never anticipated I had a backup plan, so he brazenly admitted it. That's right, I know everything. That's why I feel sorry for you. Just hand over the company quietly, and your sister and I will treat you well. Trista also played the family card at the right moment. She grabbed my hand, her eyes full of earnestness. Sis, just agree to it. We're doing this for your own good. You've always doted on me, so you'll understand. One day when you meet a man as wonderful as him, you'll see what I mean. Two people have been toying with me all along. completely unaware that online criticism against them is already overwhelming. You clearly know that the reason I got entangled with these two scumbags back then was because you first assaulted a classmate. I was forced to use all my liquid assets to bail you out, which left me financially strapped. After all I've sacrificed for you, is this how you repay me? My questioning angered Trista, who abruptly shook off my hand and rolled her eyes in fury. Enough. What's the point of bringing this up? Just to remind me of your kindness. I remember, which is why I've been trying to help you and the company. I admit releasing those damaging materials hurt you, but from now on, Cliff and I will take good care of you. Then you can just stay at home peacefully, maybe even find a boyfriend, and I can bring Dad back too. We'll all live together happily as a family. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Hearing her say that, my heart was bleeding. Had she forgotten how Dad cursed us both during their divorce? Don't forget, when Mom and Dad divorced, he kept calling us burdens, bastards, and two little bitches. Do you really want a man like that to come back? Trista looked momentarily awkward. She must still remember how it was back then. To get a divorce, Mom and Dad faced off in court, right in front of everyone, under all the cameras. His so-called dear father spat at us, cursing that we were bastards, that we were trash. In the heat of his rage, he even took off a shoe and hurled it at us. At the time, Mom shielded us in her arms, and I held on to her. We weathered all the curses and storms, only to end up protecting such a fool. Dad has already explained it to me. He was deceived by that mistress. Now that the mistress is gone, and he has already realized his mistake, can't you just give him a chance? Just as Dad said, you and Mom are the same kind of people. Heartless and extremely controlling. I shook my head in despair. There was nothing more to say now, so I got up to leave. Seeing that I was about to leave, they rushed over and blocked my way. Wait a minute, you haven't handed the company over to me yet. Why are you leaving? Did I hit a nerve? Does it hurt? If it hurts, why not just follow our arrangements? I picked up a glass of water from the table and poured it over her head. Your brain already has enough water. This little bit won't make a difference. Don't even think about touching the company. If you dare lay a finger on me again, I'll kill you. The words were blunt and brutal, but they got through to her. She even forgot to lash out at me before I shoved her away. Just as they were leaving, they still had the audacity to try to cause trouble with me, but the restaurant staff held them back firmly. Wait a moment, sir and madam, you haven't paid the bill yet. Trista was in a hurry to come and stop me, but the staff mistook her for trying to skip the bill, and a group of them rushed to surround her. Cliff took advantage of the moment to sneak away, and I didn't bother to watch the rest. Later, the private detective sent me a message saying Trista had paid the bill with that watch containing the listening device. However, he also told me not to worry, as during the time the watch was in use, they had already posed as maintenance workers and installed listening devices in her home. When Trista returns, she'll find that public opinion online has completely reversed. I released a recording. The entire incident of those two people harassing me back then, only to be counterattacked and injured by me. This incident even attracted police attention. With official verification of the recordings and follow-up feedback after the police report was filed, for me, that incident was a disaster, but it also turned out to be a blessing in disguise. My stance against workplace sexual harassment caught the attention of a female entrepreneur. At the most critical moment, she invested in my company, becoming its second-largest shareholder, and we've remained close friends for years. This time, I invited her to testify on my behalf. Of course, she was happy to oblige. If Four Seasons Clothing makes a substantial profit, she stands to gain more benefits as well, along with the release of these materials. The video of Trista hitting someone back then was also made public. I issued a statement clarifying why I was short on working capital at the time and detailing the outcomes of the two bosses involved in the sexual harassment incidents. The internet immediately erupted in criticism against Trista, and the major accounts that had previously accused me all posted apology videos. Meanwhile, Four Seasons Clothing became an overnight sensation because of this incident. Within just 3 days, all inventory was sold out, and it also generated a large number of pre-orders. Riding this wave, an online movement against sexual harassment was launched, leveraging the company's legal resources to create a fair channel for addressing workplace sexual harassment. Praise poured in instantly. Collaborations followed one after another, and the company's shareholders obediently fell silent. I won a brilliant comeback, but Trista's days weren't so fortunate. This sister is utterly disgusting. Slandering her own sister like this, more than just disgusting, this is pure love-struck idiocy. With a sister like this, I'd proudly be a sister's girl every day. Any man who dares say a word against my sister, I'll knock his front teeth out. This is how sisters repay kindness with betrayal. It's truly chilling to watch. If we were in the same city, I'd definitely go give that younger sister a couple of slaps. Don't worry, upstairs commenter, I'll help you. A massive wave of online violence began, with people on the internet saying they would give Trista 2 slaps, and they truly followed through. Just a few days later, a private investigator sent me a video of Trista going out to eat, only to be recognized by someone on the street. The person pulled out their phone to film her while aggressively questioning her about her thoughts. In the end, Trista lost her temper, smashed the person's phone, and was grabbed by the hair and violently slapped. Finally, Trista ended this farce by compensating for the other person's phone. Without even eating, she slunk back home in disgrace. In the following days, she didn't step outside at all. The two of them kept quarreling at home every other day. But none of this concerned me. Right now, the company has major orders waiting for me. Just as I was busy working like crazy, these two caused trouble again, adhering to the principle that any publicity is good publicity. Trista took advantage of the current buzz to become an internet celebrity. In her video, she tearfully complained that I had been strict with her upbringing, controlling not only her diet but also requiring my approval for her clothing choices. She even cried while telling everyone that dancing was my dream, and because I was to take over the company, I forced her to learn dance. She also released a short clip showing me helping her stretch by pressing down on her legs. At that time, she was crying in pain, but I didn't stop. Instead, I kept urging her to hold on. She even revealed that the reason my company has come this far is not because of my own efforts, but because of her body. Her body was, of course, untouched. Guess why she made me learn dancing? If you dig deeper, you'll find that the female investor who backed her back then had a disabled son. I was dragged to have dinner with them, and she even sent me on a vacation with that man, just the two of us. You can imagine what happened. This statement quickly caused another uproar online, and even my business partner called me. She demanded that I resolve this matter as soon as possible, warning that if her son got involved, she wouldn't hesitate to show me no mercy. I apologized to her and made a promise to handle the matter promptly. Using online public opinion as a tactic, Trista has employed it too many times. If this continues, all she's wasting is time, while I might be losing money. So I decided to resolve it once and for all. Coincidentally, a show about mediating family conflicts reached out to me. I initially wanted to ignore it, but now I figured I could make use of it to crush her completely. I started frantically calling her during this time. If she didn't answer once, I'd call twice. It wasn't until I'd called non-stop for 2 whole days that I finally heard her voice. "Oh dear, my dear sister, what's wrong? Getting anxious? Don't worry. The best is yet to come. Trista, you lunatic, can you please drain all the water from your brain? What's between us is our business. Why drag others into it?" Trista let out a light laugh, completely brushing off the matter. She even said to me in a mocking tone, "What's the big deal? It's just a blind guy. It's his luck to be used by me. Don't think I don't know that the female boss invested in you just because you pleased her son. Anyway, selling once is selling. Selling twice is still selling. Why don't you just go again?" After saying this, she hung up the phone directly. This time, I was truly furious. If murder weren't illegal, I swear I would have stabbed her. On the day of the show, I was well prepared. The host of this program was no good person either. After exchanging a few polite words, there was no gradual build-up or gentle questioning. Instead, they went straight for the jugular. "Miss Erin, the recent online uproar surrounding you and your sister has been relentless. Especially regarding Trista's claim that you once handed her over to the son of a business partner. Do you have any explanation for this?" I responded with a cold, mocking laugh. The fact that someone like Trista could even be gifted to anyone is truly baffling. I genuinely admire her audacity. Back in school, she couldn't score above 60 in any academic subject. Sometimes I wonder if her brain is missing a piece. She said she wanted to learn dance, at 500 yuan per lesson. I poured in 5 or 600,000, and not a single award came of it. Forget about winning, she never even made it past the preliminary rounds. I'm starting to suspect she might just be physically uncoordinated. Before calling someone disabled, take a look at yourself first. Their child may have a slight flaw, but they're a renowned musician. They have a flaw, not a desperate appetite. Most netizens today still have common sense, hearing my sarcasm. A group happily spammed the bullet screen. Perhaps for the sake of the live broadcast effect, they placed a huge screen below the stage. Those colorful bullet comments greatly amused me. Not a roast from your own sister. Who's really the failure when you can't even score 60 in any subject? Spending $500 on classes, and can't make it to the semifinals or finals. The person Trista mentioned, I've uncovered their identity. They're visually impaired, not blind or disabled, and what's more, they're a renowned musician and a top student. How could Trista have the nerve to slander them like this? Talk about thick-skinned. This is truly shameless to the point of being invincible. However, there are also those who side with Trista, mostly arguing based on my strict disciplinary approach. Have you all been brainwashed or something? What kind of victim-blaming nonsense is this? Trista, so what if she's a poor student? Does that mean she has no human rights and can be toyed with by others at will? Exactly right. Her sister has a pathological need for control. Haven't you heard? Trista even said she's controlled down to what underwear she wears. Just thinking about it feels suffocating, with a crazy woman like that, who'd send her own sister out as a gift. There's nothing she wouldn't do. Trista was even forced to go on a trip alone with a man before. Such voices, though not particularly numerous, were quite distinctive and were quickly picked up by the host. Miss Trista might not have been very dedicated to learning dance, which led to counterproductive results, but you can't entirely blame her. According to her, dancing was entirely your dream. I often sighed deeply and then had them play a video. The video showed my mother dividing the family assets. After winning the lawsuit, she had already discovered she had a terminal illness. At that time, it was already incurable, and we could only prolong time with medication. So the family assets were divided early for us. Inside, Mother listed everything our family owned: companies, houses, and cars, totaling less than 20 million, not to mention the debts. There was also 20 million in cash. But accessing this money came with one condition: never getting involved with the company again. At that time Trista knelt before me in tears, pitifully begging me, "Please, sis, I beg you. I truly love dancing. I was born to dance. Just let me go. I don't want the company. I can't make money. And I can't handle this pressure." In that video, you could even clearly see many dance awards placed on my family's table. As I mentioned earlier, Trista has never won any awards, so those could only be mine, and now she's kneeling before me, begging me to give up 20 million in cash, claiming that dance is her life. I wonder if her face stings from the slap of her own words. After the video ended, I looked at the host with a displeased expression and retorted, "It's true that dance is my dream. But is it only my dream? Didn't someone say dance is her life? What she treated as her life, she gave up so easily, and I won't even comment on that, but to use what she cherished most to frame me. Didn't she fear her tongue might slip when she opened her mouth?" The host was left speechless by my retort. Lowering their head in silence for a moment, the live comments began to shift at this point, and sure enough, someone noticed those awards. "Oh my God. Did you notice? Those trophies are all for dancing. I studied ballet, and the awards I recognize carry substantial prestige. Had my sister continued dancing, we'd have another dance champion today. The funniest joke this year. Dancing is my life, yet not a single award to show for it." This video wasn't recorded intentionally by me. It was originally taken as evidence for the inheritance division, specifically arranged by Mom. Who knows if Mom filmed these because she saw through Trista's ambitions early on, or just as a precaution. I have no way of knowing these things, but the host hasn't given up yet. Even if that's the case, it's still true that you used violence to force her to dance before. You, as a host, aren't very professional, but you sure are nosy. After this episode, you should consider changing careers. These words don't even need me to refute them. The vast number of netizens can handle it. Is this host out of his mind? Stretching is basic training for dancers, isn't it? Dancers stretch almost every day, and the intensity in the video wasn't even high. How could she possibly scream like that? Perhaps reminded by the director through his earpiece. The host suddenly frowned but quickly composed himself. "Miss Erin, while all this can be explained, forcing your sister to travel alone with a man still doesn't seem appropriate, does it? You're all over the place with your questions, beating around the bush. What exactly are you trying to ask?" He thought I was dodging the question, and his eyes lit up as if he'd caught me in a lie. "Miss Erin, Please answer this. Did you send your sister on a trip alone with another man for business purposes? Don't you know accidents can easily happen during travel? Are you deliberately putting your sister in danger for your own convenience? A series of 3 questions, each one seemingly designed to nail me to the pillar of shame. But I refused to let her have her way. After he finished asking, I didn't even need to respond. The images on the large screen automatically started playing, capturing everyone's attention. My business partner is deeply concerned about his son because his vision impairment wasn't congenital. It's because of being hurt by outsiders that my partner is constantly concerned about our son. During their trip, my partner specifically had someone record a video. While he was on the phone asking me to deal with Trista, he sent over this video. The video clearly shows they were traveling as a group. Not only with friends from the boys' band but also with Trista's dance crew friends. They went out to have fun together, and there was never a moment when a man and woman were alone together. Moreover, that child had vision difficulties and would typically stay in one place, hardly moving at all. On the contrary, Trista often got too close to others, frequently finding excuses to initiate physical contact. This made the child extremely nervous, and before the trip even ended, they ran back home. At the time, the business partner was quite displeased because the young man already had someone he liked and didn't want to interact with others. I had warned about this long ago Trista, but she turned a deaf ear to it. Host, is there anything else you'd like to ask now? If not, I'll proceed. The host was momentarily stunned, not grasping what I meant by proceed, only to see me snap my fingers as the video then underwent another change. And the following footage was precisely the scene of our conversation in the cafe that day. Trista, the greedy expression was magnified infinitely on the giant screen, revealing the man's disgusting face. For a moment, the entire internet erupted in curses, even harsher than before. This sister must have sewn her younger sister's fate shut in a past life, otherwise she wouldn't be suffering such retribution. Agree with the comment above. I really wonder how the sister held back from slapping her twice. What kind of disgusting slime is that man? What era is this, still promoting the idea that women must rely on men? And the key point is that silly woman believed it, the biggest scam this year. Sis, I'll find you a man, you settle down, hand over all your property to us, and let my man take charge of it for you. Gotta say, netizens these days are masters of sarcasm. But what surprised me was that Trista was actually there too. Seeing these things, someone rushed over from the audience seats. Turn off this damn video. Turn it off. Erin, you heartless bitch, are you using all those tricks of yours against me now? Are we even sisters anymore? By the time she finished speaking, I had already pulled out the certificate of severance of kinship. You probably haven't forgotten this yet, back when you were desperate to leave with Cliff. You signed this document in a life-or-death frenzy. We stopped being sisters long ago. As for those tricks you mentioned, I merely fought back slightly. If I really wanted to deal with you, there wouldn't even be ashes left of you. Trista was so furious that she tried to hit someone right in front of everyone. Unfortunately, her meager skills weren't even enough to qualify as a warm-up against me. I took over the family company at a critical moment. With countless wolves eyeing this piece of meat, I couldn't even count them all. After enduring countless schemes, drugging attempts, and ambushes, I've honed my skills to perfection and never miss my weekly Muay Thai training. So when she raised her hand to hit me, I swiftly struck her wrist with a chop and then followed through with a slap to her face. Trista was wearing high heels, and that single slap made her lose her balance, causing her to roll off the stage. The host on the scene wasn't great, but the cameraman was truly skilled, immediately turning the lens toward Trista. Erin, you old hag, Dad wasn't wrong at all. You're a control freak, a complete lunatic, just like Mom. No man would ever like someone like you, just as Dad never liked you or Mom either. Back when my father was cursing during our divorce proceedings, the media recorded the entire scene. I managed to retrieve that video footage. Trista once said during a live stream that I severed the bond between her and her father. Today, I'll let everyone see the truth. When our father's large face appeared on the screen, his initial spittle seemed to spray onto everyone's faces. Some in the audience even started cursing in disgust. What kind of trash is this? Oh, I remember now. This divorce case caused quite a stir back in the day. That man was a Phoenix guy, married into his wife's family, seized her assets, took half the company in the divorce, and then turned around to drag his ex-wife down with him. The incident indeed made huge waves at the time. Someone brought it up, and soon others began recalling the details one after another. This divorce case remains a notorious example to this day. He brought his mistress into their home to seize his wife's property, exploited legal loopholes with shady tactics, yet still managed to get away with it. At that time, it sparked a prolonged dispute in marriage law, and to this day, this marriage lawsuit case is still frequently cited. There were several law students present at the scene, and they briefly explained the situation to the audience, leaving everyone utterly disgusted. Some even started throwing Trista empty water bottles, used trash bags, and hand clappers they were holding. Trista screamed and flailed, sitting on the ground kicking and shouting, "Why are you attacking me? This is my family matter. What does it have to do with you? Did this woman pay you all to come here?" Right. I looked at her as if she were a fool, feeling genuinely disdainful of my past self. Back then, I was truly blinded by family ties. The audience below was also fired up. After all, these incidents had caused quite a stir before, and they hadn't held back from voicing their opinions online. You say it's your family matter, then why bring it online, when you used the internet to bully your sister? You should have known this day would come. You're absolutely right. Your sister doesn't need to spend a dime. With that disgusting face of yours, I'd pay to beat you up. Trista was beaten and fled in panic, eventually leaving in disgrace, and I had one final task left. To help clear the name of my partner's son, I released Trista's phone recording where she was verbally abusing that young man. In it, she clearly admitted to taking advantage of him. After the show ended, that host really did disappear. Seems they took the advice quite seriously. Meanwhile, Trista also vanished, but I knew with her temperament, she'd never let me off so easily. So it wasn't long before the Trojan virus planted in her phone sent new information. She teamed up with one of the company's shareholders, and the bugs hidden in her home transmitted the news too. It's just Trista's news of being beaten. This girl wants to use a self-inflicted injury tactic to return to my side. Knowing makeup couldn't fool me, she actually had Cliff really lay hands on her. "Are you sure you can still go back this time? You used this trick last time." But I did go back. My sister accepted me. Believe me, as soon as she sees I'm hurt, she definitely won't just stand by. After saying this, her heart-wrenching screams were heard. Originally, she was the one who asked Cliff to hit her, but in the end, she actually got angry again. "Why did you hit me so hard? Look, you've broken my face. Do you want to disfigure me? Are you waiting for me to die so you can find someone else?" The relationship between the two had clearly soured, because before, Cliff would always grovel to make up after their fights, but this time, Cliff just called her crazy, then slammed the door and left. As for Trista, she cried bitterly for a long time, then deluded herself into thinking that as long as she had money, Cliff would treat her well. I don't understand. Have I mistreated her all these years? After Mom passed away, I was worried she might be bullied, so I watched over her meticulously. Yet in her live stream, she accused me of being controlling. That day on the show, this point was never properly explained. Trista rushed in and completely disrupted the flow, leaving scattered discussions still lingering online. Since there was no explanation, let this matter continue to ferment. Besides, Trista wants to come back, doesn't she? The day after she was beaten, Trista showed up at the company early in the morning, pitifully curled up at the entrance. As soon as I got out of the car, she hurried over, tugging at my clothes with a pitiful look. "Sis, I really know I was wrong this time. I'm pregnant." But he found another woman outside and hit me. Look, this time the injuries were real, so she was grimacing in pain, and her tears weren't fake either. Of course I would keep her, because ever since the rebirth, her repeated attacks on me had long since made me want to kill her. If I couldn't keep her locked up in prison forever, then I would make sure she died. Otherwise it would be an endless source of trouble. She said I was very much like my mother, and I never denied that. Back then, when my mother was on her deathbed, she told me that as long as I confirmed someone was an enemy, I must endure until I could strike with absolute certainty. Right now I'm in the phase of forbearance, letting her come back and suggesting she get an abortion. She refused, so I have nothing more to say. She says I'm too controlling, so this time I'll simply stop managing her. So she went wild with the child in her belly, not only spending the money I provided hopping around bars but also using my funds to support several men. However, all these things she did were captured by people I hired and sent to Cliff. I knew that Cliff would definitely come looking for Trista, and the two of them were bound to argue, but I never expected this man to be so ruthless. she actually beat Trista so badly that she miscarried. If it hadn't been for a passerby discovering her, Trista might have died. That night, she was rushed to the hospital, but I only instructed the doctors to do their best to save her. I had no intention of going there myself, but Trista was causing a scene. She kept making a fuss in the hospital, insisting on leaving to find someone. Of course, I didn't interfere either, so she went back to the place she shared with Cliff. After another round of drama between the two, I thought this incident would help Trista see his true character, but to my surprise, with just a few words, she was once again sweet-talked by Cliff. The reason given was that someone had secretly filmed those things about her and deliberately shown them to Cliff, aiming to drive a wedge between them. Trista's first reaction was to come after me. She rushed to the company to confront me, slamming a pile of photos on my desk. When she came looking for me, I was in a meeting. Everyone present lowered their heads, not daring to look at the scene. I simply waved my hand casually, and the room fell silent instantly, leaving just the two of us. Seems like you've been having quite the fun time lately. I just casually flipped through those photos, and they were simply an eyesore. This Trista really knows how to have fun, grinding on people in bars, passing drinks mouth to mouth, and in one photo, she even seems to be popping some kind of pills. In my past life, I might have thought someone was trying to harm her, but now I know those were the very things meant to frame me in the future. As for the man who fed her those drugs, he's no stranger to me either. After I died in my past life, my soul didn't immediately disperse. I watched as Trista used our clothes as a cover to help those drug traffickers smuggle narcotics. This matter not only crossed my bottom line but also violated the legal boundary. Soon, the company was completely destroyed, and all its employees were being interrogated. At that time Trista had taken over the company for less than a year, and the hard work of 2 generations, my mother and me, was just gone like that. Moreover, at that time Trista had already developed a drug addiction, and people online gave us a nickname, calling us the Poisonous Sisters. As for the suffering I endured in prison, it was also thanks to this man. No matter when or where, drugs are an untouchable red line. With this, even if Trista doesn't die, she'll never be able to come out and harm me again in this lifetime. Thinking of this, my mood improved a little. Do you have enough money to spend? Hearing my question, Trista regained her confidence. I don't want money, I want freedom. You can't control me every single moment. Since childhood, I've felt like I've been living in the palm of your hand. Am I just your little plaything? Do you know why I like Cliff so much? It's because she gives me freedom. Something you could never give me in your entire life. You and Mom are the same. You both love to control me. If you don't want the money, then get out. Don't forget, we're still not sisters. Hearing my warning, Trista finally became frightened. She stopped yelling at me and didn't even dare to turn back and shout after I pushed her away. She still doesn't understand why I let her come back. It was for the man who gave her drugs and that shareholder. After she returned, she frequently contacted that shareholder on her phone. The shareholder has a son at home and has been trying to set us up, and Trista's mission this time was to drug me, allowing the shareholder's son to take advantage of the situation. Such a brilliant plan. I decided to let Trista experience it herself, especially since I knew that shareholder's son had AIDS. To complete this mission, Trista chose the day of our birthdays. We weren't twins, but we shared the same birthday. Early that morning, Trista booked a hotel. Though it was just the two of us, she reserved a large private room. She really doesn't treat money as money, but soon he would realize just how wasteful he was being today. Sis, you finally came. I thought you were really angry and wouldn't even celebrate our birthdays together. I stared at her coldly, not saying much, and simply took a seat at the place she had arranged. Sis, we had a really unpleasant argument before today. I want to formally apologize to you. This glass of wine was something I had my friend go through great lengths to obtain. It's a private collection, costing over 100,000 yuan, not your money, so you're happy to spend it. My words froze her instantly. If looks could kill, I'd probably have died 1,000 times over, but she's learned to hold back now. When I looked at her, she still wore a smile on her face. Oh, sis, I know I spent a bit more this time, but today is our birthday after all. It only comes once a year, so it's worth it, right? I sighed deeply. So she does remember it's our birthday today. She poured the wine into the glass and then brought it to me. With just a slight swirl, I could tell something was off about the wine's aroma. This skill of wine tasting was taught to me by my mother before. I still remember her saying back then that women are easily taken advantage of in the business world, and to protect oneself, one must resort to any means necessary. At the time, she forced me to sample almost every type of wine available on the market. I knew she was heartbroken. Back in the day, she had fallen into a trap, being tricked while drinking, though I managed to escape by every means possible. My dad ended up benefiting from it. At that time, my dad put on an honest face and finally managed to deceive my mom and grandpa. My mom was determined to be a strong, independent woman. She had planned that when the time came, she would either choose from a sperm bank to have her own child or adopt one. But now, with a man inexplicably in the picture, she was naturally unwilling. But later, seeing that my dad wasn't so bad, I gradually accepted him. Yet the final outcome was so tragic. I only smelled the wine without drinking it, which made Trista very unhappy. Sis, why aren't you drinking? Is the wine not good? The wine is fine, but your intentions are too malicious. A look of astonishment flashed across her face, then she quickly feigned innocence. Sis, what are you talking about? I just wanted to have a drink with you. Why are you saying such things about me? Even if I made a small mistake, I never harmed you, right? How did she manage to say that so smoothly? When I looked over, she clearly panicked for a moment. Sis, I know I made mistakes before, but since you're willing to let me come back, that means you've forgiven me, right? Let's drink to bury the hatchet. After saying this, she poured herself another glass of wine, as if to show me there was nothing wrong with it, but I knew the drug had already been applied to the bottom of the glass. How dare she use such an old trick right in front of me? So I switched our glasses right in front of her. Want to wash away past grievances with a drink, then have this cup. Trista looked at the wine in my hand, the hatred in her eyes barely concealed. Sis, these 2 cups of wine are the same. I suspect there's more than just that one thing in this cup. There must be something else too. In my previous life, I was falsely accused of drug use. Not only were drugs found in my residence, but they were also detected in my blood. I could never figure out when I had come into contact with these substances until I recalled having a meal with Trista not long before. At the time, Trista had given me a glass of wine. After drinking it, I felt somewhat strange, unusually excited, even experiencing faint hallucinations. When I woke up, I was shocked to realize I had blacked out and couldn't remember anything that happened after drinking. I can't guarantee there's something in this drink, but you should still be careful. So when Trista hesitated, I grabbed her throat with the glass in hand and forced it down her mouth. Cough, sis. I showed no mercy. After pouring all the liquor down her throat, I pinched her nose and covered her mouth, forcing her to swallow. Although some was spilled, most of it was drunk. And my goal was basically achieved. After letting her go, she slumped to the ground, pointing at me and cursing loudly. You vicious, crazy woman, how could you do this to me? You're not my sister at all. I don't have a cruel, ruthless, and wicked sister like you. I stood in front of her, grabbed a napkin from the side, and looked down at her as I wiped my hands. In terms of ruthlessness and malice, we are the same. After wiping my hands, I flung the napkin onto her face and took away the hidden camera. By this time, Trista was already under the influence of the drug. She lay on the ground, frantically tearing at her clothes while babbling nonsense. Moreover, her eyes were glazed over, with drool and snot smeared across her face. Her whole body seemed to be convulsing or perhaps in a frenzy. Honestly, it was quite terrifying to watch. I turned off the lights in the private room as I left, and not long after, a man, rubbing his hands together with a lewd expression, cautiously entered the room. Only after letting him in did I prepare to leave. As I passed by the private room's door, I casually closed the main door behind me, and with that, I shut in the sounds of wild moaning and heavy panting. I exited through the hotel's back door. While taking the elevator, I happened to run into a group of reporters rushing out. The next morning, as soon as I arrived at work, reporters were already waiting at my door. Last night, their affair was broadcast live by reporters, and the scene was quite steamy. Even with the mosaic blur, the original audio was enough to fuel wild imaginations. I couldn't care less about it. So when the shareholders came to discuss the marriage arrangement with me, I paid no attention at all. I say, Ms. Erin, now that things have progressed this far between the 2 kids, wouldn't it be unreasonable not to get married? I knew exactly what he was scheming. Nothing more than wanting me to offer company shares as a dowry. But why should I provide a dowry for someone who has nothing to do with me? If it's about marriage, then marry. But what does Mr. Liam coming to see me mean? Mr. Liam, with his potbelly and a balding head resembling the Mediterranean, squeezed onto my tiny sofa, looking somewhat pitiful. "This Trista is your sister, who else should I come to if not you? I've long severed ties with her. Besides, young people just fool around. No need to make a federal case out of it. Many men have played with Trista. Your son isn't the only one. How dare you want such a woman?" My mocking gaze watched his awkward expression. He never expected Trista to be so shamelessly dissolute. But I can't blame him. It's because I spoiled Trista too much before. I'd go to any lengths to silence any voice that spoke against her. Trista's badness runs deep. From a young age, she bullied other girls, and by her early teens, she was already sneaking out to meet people for hotel rendezvous. If I hadn't kept such a tight rein on her, she would have turned the world upside down. Later, to protect her reputation, I went to great lengths to whitewash her image, claiming she practiced ballet and didn't win awards because she shunned the spotlight. To spare her embarrassment, I also tried my best to keep her from attending various social events, yet this only made her resent me more. In her previous life, when she was slipping me allergy medication, she said that if I would just take her to the banquet, she could find a good man worth entrusting her life to early on. She wouldn't have met Cliff and fallen head over heels for him. At that moment, I knew she was truly beyond saving. She knew Cliff was a scoundrel, inferior to those young masters at the banquet, yet she insisted on being with that man. I think it wasn't for love, but simply out of spite towards me. She just wanted to contradict me, but ended up digging herself deeper, and in the end, she blamed it all on me. This has always been her way of thinking. This time, instead of covering for her, I showed Mr. Liam all the things she had done. When he saw those disgusting photos and videos, Mr. Liam was utterly repulsed. "She's your own sister. How can you just ignore her like this?" I did try to guide her, but she accused me of being too controlling. Now I'm not even her sister anymore. What right do I have to interfere? Instead of wasting time on her, "Mr. Liam, let's not talk about her. Shouldn't we discuss matters between us?" Mr. Liam was stunned, unable to comprehend what else there could be between us. What else could there be between us besides discussing our two children's marriage? Of course, it's about you leaving the company and transferring your shares to me for free. Mr. Liam flared up immediately and slammed those photos on the table. "Dream on, you're trying to force me out of the company. Your greed is downright disgusting." I simply smiled faintly and placed his son's medical report in front of him. "Your son is not in good health, and what he has is an infectious disease, according to our country's laws. Knowingly having a disease and deliberately engaging in relations with others constitutes malicious transmission. I may not have studied law, but I do know how to use the internet. Maliciously transmitting HIV is considered the crime of spreading venereal diseases, punishable by up to 5 years of imprisonment, detention, or surveillance. Does that sound official enough, Mr. Liam glared at me with gritted teeth, finally letting out a cold snort before leaving. He couldn't risk his only son as a bargaining chip. This Mr. Liam is good in every way, except he values his descendants too much. His son contracted AIDS, yet he was determined to go to any lengths to have his son carry on his lineage. What could he do? He'd long been incapable of fathering children. In his younger days, he'd played around too wildly. Father and son were equally depraved. Half a month later, Mr. Liam officially withdrew from the company. On the surface, all his shares were said to have been sold to me, but in reality, it was practically a giveaway. I successfully resolved this major trouble, and for this matter, I'm quite grateful to Trista. Speaking of which, Trista hasn't been seen for a long time. I guess she went to appease Cliff. So with great interest, I dialed the private detective's number, and sure enough, my guess was correct. "Miss Erin, your sister is no different from a fool. To win back her boyfriend, she's slept with every man around him." This was unexpected to me, but what surprised me even more was that the man who provided Trista with the pills was actually among them. Last time I saw that man's photo, I singled her out and handed it over to a private investigator for investigation. This time I saw him again, still in a photo. And this time Trista wasn't eating colorful candy pills, but white powder. Miss Theron, this is getting bigger. If I were you, I wouldn't hire a private investigator like me anymore. Even though your money is easy to earn, I understood he was warning me, and I accepted his kindness. Just a few days later, Trista managed to appease Cliff, and the two of them began plotting against me again. This time, they didn't dare to cause trouble online, but instead tampered with my clothes. They went to the clothing factory that supplies our company, Turns out, in this lifetime, I've set enough obstacles for them, which also triggered some events that didn't happen in the previous life. For instance, this time they tampered with my clothes and then filed an anonymous report. They claimed that the clothes produced by our company contained excessive levels of radioactive substances, which could cause cancer if worn for a long time. After government testing, it was confirmed that the clothes did contain some prohibited substances, but they were not carcinogenic, nor was there any so-called radiation. Moreover, only a portion of the clothes were affected, and those were subsequently destroyed. However, it's impossible to explain clearly online, as the government has conducted censorship, with large quantities of clothing being destroyed and garment factories being shut down. All this information indicates that there's a problem with our company's clothing. The hard-earned reputation collapsed in an instant. Trista seized this opportunity to write extensively, claiming that I was always a shady businessman. She had repeatedly advised me before but failed to pull me back, ultimately resorting to rebellious actions to retaliate against me. I have to admit, this move was quite effective. Most people online chose to believe her. After all, my reputation is worse than hers now, and she seized the opportunity to go live, venting extensively during the stream. She claimed the clothes I sold were all defective, saying she had seen the issues but didn't know how to pull me back from the brink. She couldn't bring herself to report me either, since I'm her only sister, and this time, it seems she had money. She even hired a flood of paid commenters to back her up. Her reputation took a sudden turn for the better, and she even landed several endorsement deals. People online began fiercely boycotting my company, and government agencies also stepped in to investigate. This incident brought me enormous trouble, and even my former business partner came forward to confront me. I spent some time calming this partner down. As long as she and I stay composed, no matter how dire the company's situation becomes, there's still a way to turn things around. And it was at this moment that I unexpectedly saw my long-lost father. To highlight their deep father-daughter bond, my father appeared in Trista's live stream. He had grown older, but his life in recent years must have been comfortable, thanks to Trista, the sucker who's been supporting him. During the live stream, he claimed that my mother was once an unscrupulous wealthy businesswoman, and that I had learned to be exactly like her. As for his betrayal of my mother by having an affair back then, he also whitewashed the past. In their version of the story, he and that mistress were childhood sweethearts, while my mother was drugged and forced herself upon my father. My father, being an extremely responsible man, married my mother. After marriage, my father had no respect in our household and was even frequently beaten and scolded. These fathers could endure everything until he discovered that my mother, in order to cut corners while making clothes, used improper materials. It was then that he completely fell out with my mother. But what truly broke his heart was me, his daughter. I never could have imagined that Erin, my own daughter, raised by my own hands, would turn out exactly like her mother. She even believed her mother's methods were right and, to defend her, once poured boiling water on me. This incident, indeed, brought back some old memories of mine. I did pour boiling water on him. And that was because when my mother went out with him to discuss business, someone made inappropriate advances towards her. Given that the other party was a major business partner, my mother chose to endure it and had to find a way to secretly ask my father for help. Not only did my father pretend not to see it, but he also tried to push my mother closer to him. At that time, my mother was already pregnant with my younger sister. Faced with the business partner who insisted she drink strong liquor, my mother chose to refuse. Ultimately, this collaboration failed. Of course, after returning, my father began to scold my mother, and the two of them ended up in a heated argument that escalated into a physical fight. My mother was pushed to the ground by him, clutching her stomach and crying out in pain, but my father, heavily intoxicated, still tried to kick her. In desperation, I used a pot of boiling water to force him back. I never expected him to remember this incident. Does that mean he also remembers the look on his face at that time? For the sake of a deal, he could actually push his own wife to someone else, wearing the green hat with such ease. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but feel sad for my mother. But it also made me even more certain in my heart they must die. After starting the live stream, their situation improved, and they even had the nerve to come back and demand the company. Sis, the company is in such a state now, with so many shareholders planning to withdraw their investments. Why don't you just hand it over? Do you want to go down with the company? looking at her face that had aged more than just a year or two. It seems this girl has been dabbling in those things quite a bit lately, and I'm quite curious, when she found out she had that disease, was her first reaction to ask for money or to save her life? In fact, I did just that. The company is useless to you. You're about to die. She seemed to hear a joke and couldn't help but chuckle. My father, on the other hand, got quite excited, slapping the table and laughing heartily. Are you just like your crazy mother? Have you lost your mind too? Even if you die now, Trista won't die. Do you know how much money Trista is making right now? Look at you, following your dead mother your whole life, and you're still not as good as Trista. Now you see, heaven favors filial daughters. I advise you to hand over the company now, and maybe we'll leave you some scraps to eat, otherwise, you'll be fighting dogs for food on the streets. I took out Mr. Liam's son's medical report and threw it right in front of Trista. Mr. Liam's son has AIDS. You two must have had quite a passionate night that day. Seems like you didn't use a condom, did you? One sentence froze both their faces instantly. At the same time, I sent this medical report to Cliff via another phone. Impossible, this can't be true. How could his son have such a disease? You're lying to me, right? No need to lie. Both the father and son have the disease. Otherwise, why do you think they're in such a hurry to find women to bear children? Trista didn't believe it. But her flustered movements betrayed her guilty conscience. After leaving the company, she went straight to the hospital, and I called that private detective brother back again. I heard it was quite lively at the hospital that day. Cliff saw the medical report and rushed to the hospital in a panic to get tested. The two happened to bump into each other. Cliff immediately beat Trista black and blue, and if no one had intervened, Trista might have been beaten to death on the spot. At this point, based on Trista's online statements about me being extremely controlling, I also responded, from childhood to adulthood, Trista has done many dirty deeds, and finding evidence wasn't difficult. I have quite a bit in my possession. She bullied classmates, checked into hotels with people, had an abortion at a young age, wore all kinds of sexy outfits, and even ran naked in bars. I compiled all the evidence into a massive PowerPoint and directly posted it online. Trista completely exploded. And recently it was even revealed that she has AIDS, MS. Aaron, congratulations indeed. Everyone who came for testing was positive. He said everyone who came for testing, which means Cliff's bunch of bastards all showed up. One bastard led to so many scumbags. Quite effective. Then where is my dear sister now? She was taken back. I dare not get too close to that group of people, but don't worry, the police will keep a close eye on it. Then there's nothing left for me to worry about. Trista was taken away by them, while a large amount of clothing in my company was left unsold. At this point, someone suggested shipping them overseas. I agreed to the proposal and handed it over to the people in the company to handle. Given that I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, the procedures for handling overseas business were completed quite quickly. In less than half a month, all the paperwork was in order, and even the sales channels were established. Those clothes were shipped abroad. And when some defective items were returned, they came back with gifts as well. These gifts never made it back to my company. They were secretly diverted along the way. A few days later, some strange items appeared in my apartment. These were collected by special personnel, and within a single day, my sister once again began filing real name report. But this time, as soon as she found the reporting point, she was taken under control. Not long after, based on the transportation routes of the retrieved gifts, the police successfully dismantled a massive drug manufacturing ring. They also seized a large quantity of drugs and rescued many trafficked individuals who were being used as drug mules, including those with intellectual disabilities and children. The only regret is that during the arrest, Cliff managed to escape, and my dear father also disappeared, but it doesn't matter anymore, after this gang was wiped out. The government also provided an explanation for my company. They clarified that there was no issue with our company's clothing. Instead, it was discovered that drug traffickers had targeted our overseas shipping routes, and I was asked to cooperate with the police in setting up a trap. The government commended me for my efforts. Once this news was released, everyone knew that from then on, my company would have the government's backing. Moreover, they promised me certain compensations. At this point, anyone who could join my company would be able to share in the benefits. Suddenly, all those people who once wished they had never known me came rushing back. Gradually, my social engagements increased, and my business partners were overjoyed. Back when you told me this was a setup between you and the government, I was still half doubting you. Then why didn't you leave? Weren't you afraid I was lying to you? The partner smiled and clinked their glass against mine, explaining. You and your mother are so alike. I trust you just as I trusted her. That's right. My mother and I really are very similar. Trista was locked up, but she wasn't obedient, constantly thinking of harming others. She cut her own hand, recklessly splattering blood. The reason she went mad was just to see me one more time. I went to see her so as not to cause trouble for the government. Now her hair had been cut short, and due to illness and drug use, she looked almost like a female ghost. Her face was sallow and dark, with dark circles under her eyes, and her cheekbones protruded sharply. It was clear she had been through a lot. Sis, you finally came. You're famous now. It's not easy to get to see you. Taking drugs, dealing drugs, helping those drug dealers abduct children, planting unknown substances in my factory, plus all those things you did before. With everything added up, you won't be getting out for at least 10 or 20 years. Oh, I forgot. You're sick. You won't need that long. You'll die here soon enough. She looked at me with a bitter smile. Then tears streamed down her face. Sis, these past few days I had a dream. I dreamed that my original ending wasn't supposed to be like this. I never expected that after her several suicide attempts teetering on the edge of life and death, she actually managed to recover memories from her past life. Well, that's great. Now I can feel even less guilty. Good. I was worried I might have wronged you. But now I know I didn't. Hearing my words, her previously calm expression instantly turned frenzied. She pressed against the glass, screaming at me with heart-wrenching fury. So it really is you. You've come back. And all of this is your revenge on me. But it's not fair. In this life, I never harmed you. It was you who led me step by step into making mistakes. With this pane of glass between us, I wasn't afraid of her dirty blood getting on me. So I sat there completely at ease. Did I lead you? Every time. I gave you a choice, yet each time you showed me no mercy. A bad seed is a bad seed. No matter how many times we start over, your nature won't change. If I'm a bad seed, then what are you? To treat your own flesh and blood so ruthlessly, what kind of good person does that make you? Hearing her words, I couldn't help but smile. So it just proves that we're both like our mother. Mother was a ruthless person, but in the business world, if a woman wants to carve out her own empire, she must be as fierce as a wolf. Otherwise, she'll only be tamed like a dog. That's what Mom used to say. The only difference is, my ruthlessness is directed at enemies, while yours is aimed at family. And when it comes to dealing with people, I've always followed the principle of not provoking others unless provoked. Even now, it was you who struck first. I merely chose to retaliate instead of tolerating you. Trista, rot in this place. No one will care about you. In this world, apart from me, no one truly treats you well. Trista might have long realized this truth, but she just had to be stubborn in front of me. You're talking nonsense. Even if Cliff doesn't love me, there's still Dad. Dad said he wanted to take me with him back then, but he couldn't provide me a good life, so he left me behind. He even prepared gifts for me from childhood to adulthood. Though it pains me, I think it's time to let her see the truth clearly. Do you know why Dad cheated? It wasn't because Mom was too domineering, nor because the other woman was better. It was purely because you were a daughter. I pulled out a recording. This was the one I had found, made by my father's mistress back then. This trip was all about cutting off her last hope, making her realize she's nothing but a pitiful wretch, because, after all, I'm no good person. The recording clearly stated that the reason my father sought her, this mistress, was to have a son. Stealing from our family's wealth was also meant to be left for his own son. Your father sold everything you left behind and vanished long ago. You mean nothing to him. He has a son now. The only reason he came back to you was to take money from you for his son to spend. Afraid she wouldn't believe me. I even showed her photos of my father with that son and his current wife, as well as the contract where my father transferred Trista's house, which she bought for him, to his own son, including my father's transfer records over the years. And then I used a little trick to hack into his phone. I found the conversation records between my father and his current wife. And I took screenshots of each one and printed them out. In them, he referred to Trista as an ATM, as an idiot, but never once called her his daughter. Seeing these, Trista completely lost her mind. Watching her frenzy, I left feeling quite satisfied. A few days later, I went out to attend a dinner party, and on my way back, I ran into Cliff in the parking lot. He glared at me fiercely with a knife in his hand, as if he wanted to tear me apart. You damn woman, it's all because of you. Now I'm being chased by the police and hunted by Tony's former subordinates. If I can't live, neither will you. The Tony he mentioned was that drug dealer. This person has already been arrested, only a few small-time thugs escaped. And the police are currently searching for them. As for Cliff, he was naturally an important part of this, but I never expected him to deliver himself to my doorstep. Seems like you're not having an easy time either, looking like a beggar. Cliff had never actually fought me before, so when he lunged at me, I knocked him to the ground with just a few punches and kicks. To think he couldn't even beat me, he ended up cutting his own hand with a knife, then tried to stab me with it. His intention was either to kill me or to make me sick. Unfortunately, he was too slow. After all, a gun is always faster than a knife. Cliff has always been a key target for the police, until recently. I started noticing that I seemed to be under constant surveillance, so I requested police protection. After helping them with such a big case, it's only natural I'd become a target for revenge. So the police didn't ignore my request and immediately arranged for people to be around me. Cliff was also caught. This guy's crimes were more serious, with blood on his hands, and he was ultimately sentenced to death. On the day he died, Trista also died. She bit through the blood vessels in her wrist with her teeth, still muttering about wanting to start over. I don't want her to start over again. What if I don't have my past memories? Wouldn't I just be toyed to death by her again? But I have some confidence in myself. I probably won't turn into a siscon again. After that, I continued to grow my company. As for that private detective, he actually gave me a freebie. It was the paternity test results for my dad and his precious son. Turns out they weren't biologically related. Honestly, I could have guessed. The woman my dad's with now used to be quite the troublemaker herself, and she's a young, beautiful woman. My dad has no money, is old, and has a lot of issues. If she had no problems at all being with him, that would be downright unbelievable. Moreover, the private investigator told me that my dad recently developed a gambling addiction. Actually, it's not something recent. He's always had a fondness for gambling. My mom once said that even if he took half the family fortune, he wouldn't get far. It's because this man loves to gamble. After his company went bankrupt, he stopped, simply because he had no money left. Coming to find Trista was partly to support his family, and partly to gamble. Moreover, as Trista gave him more and more money, his gambling stakes grew increasingly higher, now that no one is giving him money anymore. He's probably trying to win some at the gambling table, but hoping to make money in that place. I'd advise him not to dream. Sure enough, it didn't take long before the man lost all his money and even set his sights on the house. I tipped off his wife in advance, and she sold the house, taking the money and running. With no way out, my dad came back to me again, crying his eyes out, tears and snot streaming down his face. Aaron, you were always the one I had the most faith in. I was just misled by Trista into thinking you didn't want me as your dad at all. Can you help your dad out? I shook my head to deny his words. Trista isn't wrong. If possible, I truly wish I had no connection with you at all. I called security to throw him out. The only reason I saw him again was to let others know he came asking his daughter for money. Presumably, the loan sharks will come knocking soon. Whether he loses limbs, eyes, or kidneys will depend entirely on his own fate. But half a month later, I went to collect his corpse. Arms, legs, eyeballs, and kidneys were all gone. Cremation turned out to be quite convenient. Trista extra. As I bit through the artery in my wrist, I took a moment to reflect on my past and present lives, yet I don't believe I was wrong. Since I was born, my parents' relationship has been very tense. Mom always seemed unwilling to engage with Dad, while Dad constantly complained that our family looked down on him. I really wanted a warm home. With warm and loving parents, I know my sister treats me very well, and she is the only warmth I have in this family. But when Cliff appeared, I felt the warmth my sister gave was far from enough. Cliff said he could stay with me forever, that we could have a child together. He would be the father, I would be the mother, and then we could also raise a little dog. This is the home I've always dreamed of. He once said that love without material foundation would crumble like sand. And if we entered marriage without love, neither of us would be happy. At that moment, I was terrified. I didn't want an unhappy marriage, and I didn't want my child to relive the life I once had, so I schemed against my sister. I knew she loved me, and no matter what I asked for, she would agree. In fact, she did the same in my past life, with only one exception. She wouldn't give me the home I wanted. She wouldn't let me be with Cliff, even forcing me to go on blind dates with other men. But those men were either condescending or overly flattering toward me, yet no matter what kind of men they were, I believe none of them truly loved me. They probably only cared about my sister's money. In short, they approached me because of my sister. Only Cliff was different. I've loved thrills since childhood. Cliff would go out to play with me, and he loved only me. Actually, I don't think I was that harsh to my sister. After all, she hit me back then too. She said I was the princess of the family, so isn't it only right for a princess to scold and hit her servants? But every time I disciplined one or two people, my sister would severely punish me. Once, she even beat my legs until they were covered in bloody wounds. That day, I ran away from home in tears and unexpectedly saw my father. My father was heartbroken for me and showed a tenderness I had never experienced before in my memory. He took me to the hospital, personally cooked noodles for me, and tearfully apologized, saying he had failed me. But I think it's enough that he came to find me now. With Dad's and Cliff's love, I no longer need my sister. I may be a bit promiscuous, but perhaps it's because those men love me. They love me. So what's wrong with returning the same love? So I'm increasingly convinced by what Dad said. My sister and my mother are exactly the same. Both of them are cold-hearted. They just refuse to give me warm love, refuse to give me a warm home. My sister is absolutely insane. She's trying to stop me from being with Cliff and forcing me to take dance classes, but I'm not her. Dancing is her dream, not mine. I'm done with her controlling my life, so I agreed to help Cliff send my sister to prison. But later, Cliff said my sister could still get out of prison eventually, and since she's seriously injured now, she can receive medical treatment outside. I didn't want to go back to that oppressive life, so I gave her a bit of allergy medication. My sister finally died, and I thought my life would be bright from then on, that I would receive all the warmth and love. But who would have thought? Cliff would actually use me to sell drugs, and he would beat me if I refused. Turns out he never loved me at all. He just wanted to use me to get my family's money. As for my dad, needless to say, he only wanted my money. After the company was exposed for drug use, my dad was the first to run away. As for Cliff, he made me the scapegoat. I was arrested and thrown into prison, suffering terribly during withdrawal. But this stuff is impossible to quit. Even after quitting, I'd relapse. Later, while trying to steal a bag of powder, I was beaten to death on the street. Life has given me a second chance. But why does even heaven favor my sister? My sister remembers everything from our past life, so in this life, she's relentlessly targeting me. I can't get any money. Cliff refuses to waste time on me, and I feel his love fading, which terrifies me. I've also started escalating my retaliation against my sister, but she's truly hard to deal with. Honestly, she and Mom are so alike. No matter what she does, Mom carries an air of ruthlessness. Anyone who becomes her enemy will face a relentless counterattack if she gets the chance. My sister is the same. Once she got hold of my weakness, she did everything in her power to destroy me. But I have to admit, my sister made the right choice, because until the very end, I was still plotting how to take revenge on her. I want to die. I want our lives to start over. But before I go, I'll make sure she understands just how cruel she's been. Yet once again I was defeated by her. It turns out my father never loved me either. What he loved was a son. Everything I gave him, he passed on to his son. From start to finish, I was nothing but a joke. As for my sister, she's living well now. I couldn't bear it, so I took my own life. If only heaven had given me a chance to start over. After my death, my soul hovered in midair. I watched as my sister grew the company bigger and bigger. She basked in endless praise from countless people, and her suitors multiplied around her. Later, she met a wonderful man who gave her an abundance of love. The man's family also gave my sister the warmth of a home. Watching my sister enjoy such a wonderful life filled me with unbearable jealousy. I've questioned the heavens more than once. Why is life so unfair to me? But no one ever answered, and I knew I couldn't start over. My spirit grew weaker and weaker, until eventually I could only exist as a wisp of wind. I saw my sister give birth to a child, a beautiful baby. As the child learned to speak, she gave my sister more and more love. My sister remains a successful businesswoman, while her husband chose to stay at home as a househusband for her. They live a wonderful life together, and they even have a dog. That dog seems to sense I'm no good. It barks furiously at me every time. Gradually, my spirit could no longer wander elsewhere and became confined to my sister's home. For over a decade that followed, my sister never mentioned me again. no one remembers me, just as she said, no one ever loved me.